So today we will be discussing steering gear mechanism. We all know steering gears from the automobile steering. We all drive vehicles, especially in four-wheel automobiles. There is a steering wheel, and when we turn that steering wheel, we turn our vehicle right or left according to that. So what is a steering gear mechanism? Gear mechanism is used to change the direction of two or more wheel axles with reference to the chassis. Normally in our automobiles or cars or any automobiles we drive, the steering wheels or steering axle we call it is our front axle. The back wheel axis are not given steering, only the front wheels are given steering. So that means front wheel will be turned and whereas back wheel or back axle means the thing that connects two wheels, so axle will be fixed. Back axle will be fixed. Only the front wheel will be turning. So back wheel will trail along the path curved by the or path traced by the front wheel. So normally we can say that steering is done by the means of front wheels. So there are two types of steering wheel mechanism there, popularly called. One is Ackermann steering and other one is Davis steering. We will go in detail of Ackermann because that is only mentioned in your syllabus, whereas we will just brief what is Davis steering gear. So to know the steering gear, let's just see what is a basic geometry of a steering gear. So the steering gear will or steering gear mechanism will be having an gear mechanism associated with the front wheel. Only the front wheel or front axle is given steering. And there is something called steering principle, that is difference in angle of two wheels. So let's assume a vehicle top view like this, chassis top view with two wheels and attached with an axle at the front as well as two wheels attached with an axle at the back. So this is rear wheel, this is front wheel axle, and it is taking a right turn like this. So from this diagram we can see that cot theta, theta means this angle, cot theta will be, cot means reciprocal of tan theta, not tan inverse, reciprocal. So tan inverse is different from reciprocal, I think you know. So 1 over tan theta, that will be adjacent by opposite, because tan theta is opposite by adjacent. So adjacent by opposite becomes EI divided by AB. So EI can be split up as EF plus FI. So EF plus FI divided by AE, or we know EF is given as A plus Fi over B. B is the height. And one more thing, the one who was accustomed to the automobile means A is known as A is known as track width of an automobile. That means distance between the two wheels. And whereas B is known as B is known as wheel base. But actually track width is from these two center positions of the tire. So A is not actually the track width, but A can be assumed as track width. So just forget about the track width, because A is not exactly the track width, whereas B is the wheel base. So track width minus the distance between the wheels. So we can erase the track width because A is not the track width. Track width is actually from this distance to this distance. This is the track width. But A is the, we can call the width of the chassis or width of the body. You can call. So we can call A plus Fi divided by B. Similarly, if you find cot of this angle phi that makes with the inside wheel, that will be Fi over Cf, that will be Fi over B. So if you subtract those both, that means cot theta minus cot phi will be A plus Fi over B minus Fi over B, that is A over B. And see what this gives is, when you take a right turn, this wheel, this one and this one is known as inside wheel, whereas these two are known as outside wheel, because we are turning right like this, and when we turn right, these two become the inside, these two become the outside. So what that steering principle states is, the cot of the angle of the inner wheel, that is theta, and the chord of the angle of the outer wheel, that is phi, the difference of those should be equal to the width of the vehicle divided by the lung wheelbase. Width of the body or width of the chassis divided by this wheelbase. That is what this equation gives. This is known as steering principle or law of steering. So according to this, we will see how the Ackermann steering gear mechanism works. So first one, or the important one that we want to learn, is Ackermann steering gear mechanism. Ackermann with A capital, because A is the name of the scientist. Ackermann steering gear mechanism normally used now for steering cars and other vehicles. Because this Ackermann steering gear mechanism is given below. This is the top view of an Ackermann steering gear mechanism. It has a 4-bar link like this. I hope you can see it. 4-bar link. I'll just highlight that 4-bar for you. It has a 4-bar link mechanism like this. This is a vehicle turning a left turn. So B is our inner front wheel, and this wheel is our inner outer back wheel or rear wheel. And A is our outer front wheel, and this wheel will be our outer rear wheel. This is known as back axle, but the general name that we associated in automobile is not back, it is called rear axle. Okay, that is a technical name. Back is also correct, but in engineering terms we will call it as a rear axle, and this as a front axle. So this is the Ackermann mechanism. In these 2-3 conditions has to be noted. First one is AD is equal to AD is equal to BC, and when the vehicle is moving in a straight line, this AB should be parallel to DC. This is when vehicle is moving in a straight line. These are the first conditions of a Ackermann's steering gear mechanism. And now when we take some angle, whatever be that angle be, let's assume it is taking a left turn with the front wheel, inside front wheel, that is B, because it is a left turn, so inside will be B and outside will be A. So inside front wheel making an angle theta, and outside front wheel making an angle phi. I hope it is clear. So now from this one, if you take cot of theta, cot of this angle, that will be adjacent over opposite. Adjacent will be BG over opposite will be IG. This is I. Similarly, if you take cot of phi, that is this angle, phi is there, this angle, cot of phi, that will be equal to AG over IG. And this AG can be split up as AB plus AG. This is AG total can be split up as AB plus AG. AB is already our, so cot phi can be rewritten as that AG is split up into AB plus BG over IG. And if you take this length as A and also this one as B, so we can rewrite that equation as, we can take cot phi minus cot of theta, that is equal to AB plus BG over IG minus BG over IG, that will be equal to cot phi minus cot theta is equal to AB over IG. This is the equation for or condition for Ackermann steering gear mechanism. When a vehicle takes a left turn, theta is the inside, phi is the outside. Again, if you taking a right turn again, theta becomes the inside and phi becomes the outside. So cot of the inside, cot of the outside angle minus cot of the inside angle should be equal to AB over AG, and AB is A and IG is B, so we can write it as A over B. But in general, what we take is the general condition is for accommodating some machining losses and also some mechanical losses due to friction and everything in the bearing, we call A over 0.7 B. This is the general engineering condition that we take to accommodate some tolerances. So that was Ackermann steering gear mechanism. And normally A over B, this for Ackermann steering gear mechanism, normally A over B is approximately taken as 0.455. This is also another engineering practical knowledge, that is A over B is generally taken as 0.455. And A over B varies from here, A by B should vary from 0.4 to 0.5. That means difference of cot of those two angles should be between this value. These are the limits. So this is the condition for steering gear mechanism. This is the equation, and in general principle we take A over 0.7B and A by B should be 0.455, and generally this A over B ratio is varying between 0.4 to 0.5. These are the general conditions for Ackermann steering gear mechanism to work. Now we will just brief of what is Davis steering gear mechanism. This is the overview of a Davis steering gear mechanism. Instead of 4-bar link, there will be sliding pairs. This H and G slides across this rod, like G moves here and down. Similarly, H moves here and down. So it consists of sliding gear, sliding pairs, whereas in Ackermann, these pin joints are there about which this 4-bar mechanism turns. So in Ackermann, there is turning pairs, whereas in Davis gear mechanism, it is sliding pairs. But the problem is, because of the sliding, that forms a surface connection, and we know that is a lower pair, so it wear and tear will be increased, and which eliminates the accuracy required over a course of time for steering. So Davis steering gear mechanism is normally not used. Ackermann is used nowadays because of due to the wear and tearing in this sliding pairs, that the steering mechanism will not be accurate over the time. So the major difference between Davis and, we don't need to go into detail about Davis steering gear mechanism. One, because it is obsolete, we don't use it more often, and other thing, in KTU syllabus it is not mentioned. So practically it is not used because its accuracy is less. So the main difference you can see for your gate exams and any of your competition exams, the main difference between the two gearing mechanisms, that is Ackermann and Davis, is that Ackermann consists of turning pairs. Ackermann consists of turning pairs, whereas Davis consists of sliding pairs. That is the main difference. Ackermann gearing mechanism or steering mechanism consists of turning pairs, whereas Davis mechanism consists of sliding pairs. So wear and tear is more for Davis, that reduces its accuracy over the course of time. So this is all you have to do for, or all you have to learn for steering gear mechanism, law of steering, and how it is applied to the Ackermann steering gear mechanism, and what are the conditions. We get cot phi minus cot theta is equal to A over B, whereas Theta is the inside angle and phi is the outside angle the wheel makes with the horizontal. This theta and phi are the angle made with the inside wheel with the horizontal and outside wheel with the horizontal. And the general condition is A over B is approximately equal to 0.055, but it can vary from 0.4 to 0.5, anywhere between 0.4 to 0.5. So that is steering gear mechanism. Now we want to discuss something called Hooke's joint, or more popularly known as the universal joint. You might have seen this joint. This is a joint used to connect between two rotating shafts which are not parallel. That means if a shaft is rotating like this and another shaft is rotating like this, you can just connect those shafts. But if one shaft is rotating in this direction and other shaft is to be rotated in this direction, then this connection is made by universal joint. Universal joint or Hooke's joint, or also one more name is there, Cardan joint. Different names are there. One is universal joint, other one is Hooke's joint, and last one is Cardan joint. All these names are used because Cardan and Hooke's joints are name given to the scientist, and it comes under the section of universal joint. So if you hear Cardan joint, Hooke's joint, universal, everything is same. So main components are, it will have a, these are the two shafts. One shaft is horizontal, other shaft is inclined. There will be angle between those two shafts. If you take the angle, or if the horizontal shaft is this and vertical shaft axis is like this, then actually the angle between those two is taken as the transmission angle or the universal joint angle. Both these figures show the same. Both these figures show the same universal joint. You can draw either of this, either this 3D or this planar figure. So the main components are, two shafts will be there which needs to be transmitted. Normally this will be the input shaft that comes in horizontal position, and the power is transmitted at an angular position towards the output shaft. So the power is generally transmitted in from the input shaft, and this is the output condition, and two shafts will be there. Two shafts will be connected by a universal joint, and universal joint consists of a yoke. Two yokes will be there and a cross member, and this cross member is sometimes known as, cross piece is sometimes known as spider. That is mentioned in this figure, spider. It is mentioned as cross member or as well as spider. This spider will rotate in this bearing or spin in this bearing when this shaft rotates. So yoke, spider or cross member, and two shafts, and those two shafts will be separated by a distance, angle beta. So this universal joint or Hooke's joint is used to transmit power between rotating shafts which are not parallel, but intersecting. It shouldn't intersect. Non-parallel, again I mentioned, non-parallel intersecting shaft. Shaft should intersect at some point, but it should not be parallel. That is the application of universal. This is generally used in automobiles. You might have seen this in the underbelly of large vehicles like low passenger lorries or buses. Behind the buses you might have seen this kind of shafts rotating, and this coupling is really visible in actually transportation lorries. Okay, so we will just see a video of how this shaft works, how this joint works. This is a basic view of universal joint. So if this shaft rotates, that shaft also rotates. You have to notice that this cross member or this spider actually rotates. You see the two shafts are rotating at a different angular position. So this will be the yoke, and this will be cross. This cross is also known as spider. Sometimes it is called as spider. So those will be connected at four joints. And if these were not connected for angular purpose, it should be rotating in the same velocity. That means that cross member does not have to rotate, it just have to rotate. It does not have to spin along this green bearing. And the same velocity will be transmitted in both ends. But if it has to be rotated in an angular position or inclined position, that means two non-parallel shaft, this cross member rotates in this green colored bearing. There will be a bearing attached in this bearing and cross member actually spins along that. Then only this point will come. Sorry. Then only that point will, this shaft can rotate. You can carefully see that that cross member rotates about that axis. You see? That cross member rotates inside this green bearing or that hole. That cross member actually spins or rotates. That is a spinning axis. So that is basically what you have to learn from universal joint or Hooke's joint or Cardan joint. So now we will deal with two topics which are known as mechanical advantage and transmission angle. So now we will deal with two topics, that is mechanical advantage and another topic is transmission angle. So first we will deal with mechanical advantage. And this is a screenshot of your textbook that we can refer, Ratan. So this is more than enough. So mechanical advantage. Can just consider this 4-bar mechanism. Okay, A, B, C, D. Let me draw it with a bold color so you will understand better about that 4-bar mechanism. So we have 4-bar mechanism with this. So that is the 4-bar mechanism given in the red color. So that 4-bar mechanism actually, and 2 is the driver link. So I am giving a torque into the link 2. So I mentioned torque as 2W and with a velocity W2 or omega 2, angular velocity omega 2. And 4 is the driven link or the output link. So it is transmitting that T2 as T4 with a angular velocity omega 4. So mechanical advantage, what it gives you is a ratio of output force or torque to the input force or torque at any instant of a mechanism. So you consider this mechanism. So we have force or torque or power. We know in linear motion we call power as force into velocity. So similarly in angular motion we can determine power as torque into angular velocity. So this is power. So input power is T2 times TW because we are giving power into the link 2. So T2 times omega W times power output will be T4 times omega 4 because this is our driver link. I think you remember, if this is the driver link, this will be driven link or follower. We call it as follower also, follower link. And this is called coupler link and this is grounded link. Grounded link. Fixed link also. Grounded link is also known as fixed link. Okay, so driver is 2. So input is given to the driver and follower is the one that transmits that power to the other link or other mechanism or other point. So this C, C dash and all those positions are just shown to highlight the when this mechanism just rotates like this, then where is the position. So C comes to C2 dash and then comes to C dash and comes to there. B goes to B2 dash and comes to like that. That is how the rotation. I think you know how the 4-bar mechanism works. So T2 times W2 is equal to T4 times W4. So if you take the ratio of input power to output power, or mechanical advantage can be found out by MA is the mechanical advantage, MA mechanical advantage, T4 over T2, that is output by input, output torque to the input torque. So we have the ratio of torque, output force or output torque to the input force or input torque. So T4 by T2 will be equal to omega 2 by omega 4. So this is the equation for mechanical advantage. That is either input torque by output torque or input velocity, output torque by input torque or output input velocity by output velocity. It is the reciprocal of velocity ratio. So torque input by torque, sorry, my mistake, torque output by torque input, or angular velocity input by angular velocity output. This is the mechanical advantage. If you want the ratio in terms of torque, you determine the ratio between output and input. If you want to get the mechanical advantages in terms of angular velocity, you take the ratio of input to the output. So that is basically what is mechanical. The mechanical advantage means, you see, for a large output torque, we will get a, for a small input torque, we will get a very large output velocity. Mechanical advantages means we have to determine whether the power that we are transmitting is being transmitted, or it is being transmitted to a useful purpose with a higher velocity, with a lower velocity, or that power is reduced or that power is increased. So mechanical advantage means by means of providing a mechanism to transmit power from one point to other, whether we are gaining any advantage. That is numerically represented by this term mechanical advantage. നമ്മളൊരു പവർ ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് നിന്ന് അടുത്ത സ്ഥലത്തോട്ട് ട്രാൻസ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ആ ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ മെക്കാനിസം യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജ് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ടോ? അത് നമ്മൾ ടോർക്കിൻ്റെ ടേംസിൽ കണ്ടുപിടിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഔട്ട്പുട്ട് ടോർക്ക് ഡിവൈഡ് ബൈ ഇൻപുട്ട് ടോർക്ക്, അത് നമ്മൾ വെലോസിറ്റിയുടെ ആംഗുലാർ വെലോസിറ്റിയുടെ ടേംസിൽ കണ്ടുപിടിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ആംഗുലാർ വെലോസിറ്റി ഇൻപുട്ട് ഡിവൈഡ് ബൈ ആംഗുലാർ വെലോസിറ്റി ഔട്ട്പുട്ട്. സോ നമ്മുടെ ആവശ്യം ഔട്ട്പുട്ടിലോട്ട് ട്രാൻസ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഫോഴ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ടോർക്ക് നമുക്ക് അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസ് ആയിട്ട് വേണം പുറത്തോട്ട്. അതായത് കൊടുക്കുന്ന ടോർക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ലോസ് ആയി പോകാൻ പാടില്ല. ഈക്വൽ ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ പോസിബിൾ ആയിരിക്കണമെന്നില്ല, പക്ഷേ എന്നാലും രണ്ട് മെക്കാനിസംസ് കമ്പയർ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഏത് മെക്കാനിസമാണ് കൂടുതൽ ബെറ്റർ ആയിട്ട് ട്രാൻസ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാനായിട്ട് അതിൻ്റെ മെക്കാനിക്കൽ അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസ് കമ്പയർ ചെയ്യാം. വി ക്യാൻ കമ്പയർ മെക്കാനിക്കൽ അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസ് ഓഫ് ടു മെക്കാനിസം ടു ട്രാൻസ്മിറ്റ് പവർ ഫ്രം വൺ പോയിന്റ് ടു അതർ, സോ ദാറ്റ് വി ക്യാൻ compare the mechanical advantages and we can find which is more suitable for the need. That is the need of mechanical, that is the purpose of finding mechanical advantage. So next is transmission angle. So in this 4-bar mechanism you see this mu, and that is actually transmission angle. And again B, this mechanism AB is the driver link, B is, DC is the follower. So this is our follower or driven, and this is our driver where the input torque is given. You can see it from this arrow. This is for input, that is for output. So that is our driver, and it is our driven or follower link. Follower, and this is driver link, and this is our coupler, and this is fixed link. I am just reminding this again and again and writing again coupler, follower, driver to make sure you remember the name of the links of 4-bar mechanism. At the end of the MOM class, if you still don't remember what are the names of different links used in a 4-bar mechanism, then there is no point in studying this. So, and what is a transmission angle? Transmission angle is angle mu between the output link and the coupler. Just have to remember, the output link and a coupler makes an angle. That angle is known as mu, or that is known as transmission angle. And maximum it can reach is 90. And we can find out how that. You can see bust machine. Okay, you can just read it if you want, but I will tell you this. The bust machines are that are having transmission angle that does not deviate much from 90. That means 90 degree or very close to 90 degree, we can call that a very good machine or very good transmission mechanism. So by applying cosine law to the both triangles ABD, this one I am just drawing the triangle a little bit better. ABD, if I draw ABD, this is a triangle ABD, and from that ABD you apply cosine law and you will get a square plus d square is minus 2ad cos theta is equal to k square. K is the distance between B and D. And from that also, and BCD means BCD, the other triangle that is in the black. This BCD, if If I draw it with another color, BCD, this one, and applying it to ABD, this one. Applying cos laws, we will get these two equation, and we can from 1 and 2 we can substitute each other and find a square plus d square is equal to 2ad cos theta is equal to b square plus c square is equal to 2bc cos mu, or we can find out a square plus d square minus b square minus c square is equal to 2ad cos theta bc mu. So we want to find what is the maximum angle possible for transmission. We can take the derivative of that with respect to theta. So maximum values of transmission angle can be found out by putting d, first finding what is d mu over d theta. So in this equation, if you find d mu over d theta, a square does not have theta, so that will be 0, plus d square also 0, minus b square also 0, that all are constant. So c square also 0. Now 2ad cos theta, 2ad is constant, so you can write 2ad, and derivative of cos theta or d theta of cos theta will be minus sin theta, and plus 2bc cos mu. Cos mu, there is no theta in that, so you can write cos mu times partial derivative d mu by d theta is equal to 0. We are equating that to 0 to find out the maximum values of, we know to find a maximum you have to find the derivative and equate it to 0. So in general we can get this minus and minus will become plus. So 2ad sin theta plus 2b cos mu, sorry, not cos mu, that will be sin mu, so my mistake, sorry, that will be sin mu actually. Let's find the derivative. 2b c, and cos mu's derivative with respect to theta will be sin mu, negative sin mu d mu by d theta, and equate that to 0. So you will get 2ad sin theta minus 2bc sin mu d mu by d theta is equal to 0. From this you can find d mu over d theta, or negative 2bc sin of mu times is equal to negative 2ad sin theta, and the negative and negative gets cancelled, so you will get 2bc sin mu is equal to d mu d theta is equal to 2ad sin theta, and finally you will can get d mu divided by d theta is equal to 2ad sin theta over 2bc sin mu. 2 and 2 gets cancelled, so finally you will get d mu over d theta is equal to a times d sin theta divided by b times c sin mu. This is the condition for maximum and minimum. And to find the maximum, this is d mu. So to find maximum, just equate to find maximum transmission angle mu, equate d mu over d theta is equal to 0. So ad sin theta divided by bc sin mu is equal to 0, or simply ad sin theta is equal to 0, or sin theta is equal to 0. So when is theta, sin theta is equal to 0? Sin theta is 0 at 0 degree and 180 degree, or 0 radian and pi radian. So these are the conditions for maximum. So maximum it can go up to 180 or theta can go up to 180. Let's see what is theta. Theta is the angle that the driver link makes with the coupler. So when this is 180, it's the maximum it can go. But we know, I have earlier told you, the best machines are that have that is means mu will be almost equal to 90. We have now found out theta can go up to maximum of 0 degree. That means this B will be along this line B, here to B along this line B. This is when theta is equal to 180, and this is when theta is equal to 0. So that is the maximum condition theta can go, or theta maximum mu can reach. But for good machines, it should be around 90. ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ ആംഗിൾ എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ കപ്ലറും ഫോളോവും തമ്മിൽ മേക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആംഗിളാണ് ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ ആംഗിൾ. ജനറലി നമ്മൾ കൊടുക്കുന്ന നൊട്ടേഷൻ മ്യൂ എന്നാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ മാക്സിമം കണ്ടീഷൻ കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാനായിട്ട് ഈ രണ്ട് ട്രയാംഗിളിൽ കൊസൈനിലും അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്ത് ഈ പറയുന്ന മാത്തമാറ്റിക്കൽ സ്റ്റെപ്സ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ഡെറിവേറ്റീവ് എടുക്കുക. ഡെറിവേറ്റീവ് സീറോനോട് ഇക്വേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് ഡി മ്യൂ ബൈ ഡി തീറ്റ കിട്ടും. ഡി മ്യൂ ബൈ ഡി തീറ്റേനെ ഈക്വൽ ടു 0 ഇട്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അതിൻ്റെ മാക്സിമം ആംഗിൾ കിട്ടും. മാക്സിമം ആംഗിളുടെ കണ്ടീഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് തീറ്റ ഈസ് ഈക്വൽ ടു 0 180. തീറ്റ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഡ്രൈവർ ലിങ്കും ഫോളോ ഫിക്സഡ് ലിങ്കും തമ്മിൽ മേക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആംഗിളാണ്. ഈ തീറ്റ മാക്സിമം ഈ ബി ഇവിടെ വരുമ്പോൾ 0 ആവും, ഇവിടെ വരുമ്പോൾ 180 ആവും. അപ്പോൾ അതാണ് മാക്സിമം കണ്ടീഷൻ. ബട്ട് നല്ലൊരു മെഷീൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഈ മ്യൂ എന്നുള്ള ആംഗിൾ 90നോട് അടുത്ത് നിൽക്കുമ്പോഴാണ്. ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ ആംഗിൾ വെൻ ബെസ്റ്റ് മെഷീൻസ് ആർ ദർഫോർ ഹാവിംഗ് ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ ആംഗിൾ ഡസ് നോട്ട് ഡീവിയേറ്റ് മച്ച് ഫ്രം 90. സോ ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ ആംഗിൾ പറ്റി തിയറി ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ് ട്രാൻസ്മിഷൻ ആംഗിൾ, ഈ കണ്ടീഷൻ 90ക്ക് അടുത്ത് നിൽക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് എഴുതുക. മാക്സിമം കണ്ടീഷൻ കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞാൽ മാത്രം ഈ മാക്സിമം ഈ ഡെറിവേറ്റീവ് എടുത്ത് ഇക്വൽ ടു 0 ചെയ്യുക. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് transmission angle and mechanical advantage. So that will be the end of today's session. So hope you have understood. Thank you.